All right, good morning, everybody. It's Monday, which means it's a leg day. We're going to be focusing on our lower body strength as well as our core, our abs. Yay. For today, we are going to be using some specific equipment as we are following a bit of a different program because as it is becoming a new month on Wednesday, but we're starting today. So we have a couple new exercises that we're going to be following. One of them is a step up. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because it might influence what equipment you guys are going to be using. I am going to do this step up later on in life as we get there onto this chair, stepping up onto it, put it against the wall. So if you need to grab something, whether it's a stool that you have, or maybe if you don't have something like that, you can use a stair in your house. You can just start thinking about these things as we go through our warm up, which is going to start down on the floor. So in addition to the chair, I'm going to be doing hip thrusts and stuff. I'll use my dumbbells and my bands as well. We're going to start off this warm up down here. No equipment involved, literally laying down on our back. Arms are relaxed down beside us. We're going to lift up one leg, grab that knee with the opposite hand, exhale and pull it all the way over and see if we can touch it down onto the floor. Get as close as we can, and then we'll inhale, not spend too long down there, reset, and then switch into the other side. So nice exhale as we cross, and then we'll reset. And we're going through 10 total, 5 per side. So we're going to take our sweet time with these ones. Early in the morning, our body hasn't done much before doing this, so we want to loosen it up, and we're starting off with our hips, our lower back, our mid back. So you should feel stretching happening through there. We're not forcing anything, we're just working with whatever range we got, which should improve as we go through these reps. So as you guys go through, getting closer to 5 per side, that was my back cracking a little bit, you might feel a little bit more limber in this. So we'll go right and left a couple more times to make that 10 total, which I trust you guys are counting. And then we will be sitting up into our 90-90 position that we know and we love. Maybe we don't love it, but it should be getting more comfortable in theory as we've been working on this position for quite a while. So we're going to sit up once we're done that one into this 90 degrees at both of our knees. There we go. I have more people hopping in. My waiting room, I don't know why, will not disable. All right. Good morning, Carly. So you guys are in this position here, 90 degrees. Both of our knees. We're trying to sit up as upright as possible. And then we're going to flip the legs over. Every time we get to one side, I'm going to lift up this knee, try to lift up this foot, and then I'll switch over to the other side. Knee, foot, which we know is harder than the knee, and then we'll switch back and do the same thing on the other side. So as we are doing this, we talk about not wanting to use the arms and hands. That being said, if you can't sit up without using your arms and hands, then please lean back a little bit and do that if you need to. And don't worry too much about how much your knee and foot are coming up. Just a little bit of movement. We're trying to wake up and activate those muscles in our hips. Again, we are doing 10 of these total, 5 per side. Get you guys thinking a little bit here. So we'll go through these, and then we are standing up to the top, where we're going to go through our leg swings. So we've been working on this one. We've been here before. Make sure nothing's in your way. I was worried about kicking that mirror. So we're going to start off with kicking our leg forward and backward. There and back is 1, and we'll do 10 total. I am holding on to the wall over here because we don't have to think about balance. We don't want to have to worry about it. We're just trying to get all that fluid going in our joints, loosening up our hips. So we'll go 10 times back and forth, and then I'm going to face the wall and go in front of my body, swinging my leg right and left. So again, there and back is 1, and you guys are doing 10 total. Once you're done that first side, we're going to take that over to the other side, of course. So we'll switch back to this forward, backward one, and we'll go there and back 10 times. And then we'll face that wall and do the same second one. So we're getting a little bit of a stretch through our inner thighs, the outside of our hips. This one feels kind of nice. All right, so we have one more standing, and then we actually back down on the floor for the last two of our warm-up. So this next one is a lunge variation. We're going to start off doing all one side at a time. Stepping back into a lunge, opposite arms are going to be bending. So opposite arm bends, other arm straightens, and then we're going to stand and kick that leg up. So that was one. We're doing 10 total. Now the goal in this one, is to get this front leg as straight as we can, which might not be straight. It might not be quite up to this 90-degree position, because if we have any bending in this bottom leg here, the standing one, then we're taking this leg up too far. We don't want to have that knee bending there. So maybe you're down here, and as you go through, trying to breathe through this one and tap into that mobility of your hamstring on both legs. We'll do 10 per side. Right side, and then the left side. I have a total agreement with my landlords that they're not supposed to do construction, but they're doing construction right now, so I apologize in advance if there's any weird, loud banging noises, because unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it. I try. Okay, so last one, or two rather, that we're going to do, we're back down on the floor. All about that activation. We're going to get our core activated with a dead bug. So we'll lay on our back here, doing a standard dead bug. Now, to be honest with you guys, this one is probably the hardest variation of a dead bug, especially if coordination is not really your forte. We're going to lay on our back here, 90 degrees at our knees. Arms are straight, extended right out of our shoulders. We'll take our lower back and squish it down into the floor so that is point. Right arm, left leg. Think about it. Lower them down. Bring them back up, and then switch and do the same thing on the other side. So what wants to happen in this one, those two limbs are moving. The other two want to move too. So that's where you really need to tap into that coordination, get that brain, that body connected so that you don't have those opposite two moving, and you just have the two that you want to move going somewhere. So we're going through 20 reps total, 10 per side. If you're struggling to keep your back down, we can also do this with a bent leg, which I would highly prefer if you can't keep your back down. So if you can't, you have that space back there, squish it down and maybe do this with a bent leg. See if you have a better time keeping your back down, because that is so important. Warming up. All right, so our final one that we're going to do before we go into our first working sets of exercises is our bridge walks with that single leg hip thrust in between. So we're going to start off with our feet quite narrow in this bridge position. Lower back's into the floor, so we have that little kind of pelvic tilt going on. We'll drive the hips up to the very, very top. Once we get here, we're going to shift the weight onto one side and tighten up our butt on that side, lifting up the opposite leg, lower the hips. Lower back touches, exhale, push them back up, bring this leg down, squeeze the butt on that opposite side now, you can kind of tighten up our core. Our hips should not shift or tilt, and then we'll do the same thing on this other side. So we'll go through 10 reps, total 5 per side, taking our time, going nice and slow. Most important things that you're controlling this so that this tilting, shifting does not happen in your hips. That is crucial. So let's make sure that you guys are getting that going on. We got one more popping in. I don't know what's going on with Zoom today, but it made me have a waiting room. Good morning, Bobby. All right, so you guys can stand up to the top. We're going to get you started. On these first two exercises, we have a hip thrust going on here. I'm going to have my back elevated on this chair, this nice soft cushion and pad on top. So if you don't have something like this, you're going to be doing this exercise off of the floor. Again, you can use your chair, your training bench, your ottoman, whatever you want to use. Today, I am going to add some weight to this. I'm going to hold my dumbbells on my hips. We're doing 5 reps with 5 pulses at the top of each rep. So we've done this before in our squats. We're taking this now into our hip thrusts. And we are going to pair this with a banded 3-point extension, which we will talk about after our first set of hip thrusts. So let's start off here. If you do not have weights, or maybe you want to try this body weight just to see how it feels, because this is going to make you, it's way harder than it sounds. So maybe you do want to try a body weight. I'll leave you guys up to using your own judgment. I'm going to load up my hips here, get ourselves into this hip thrust thrusting position, knees over top of the heels. We'll lower the hips down. As soon as our knees want to drive back, we'll stop. And then we come up to the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that was 1 rep. So I'm going to do 4 more like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's 2. And I'm doing 3 more. So you guys can start your first set. Again, if you're not using weights, you just have your hands wherever you want them. And we're really focusing on every pulse at the top there, which isn't a really big pulse, but we're not just doing like little ones. We want a little bit of movement there, not the full range of the rep though. We're thinking about using our butts, squeezing our butt to lift our hips up. And if you don't have a chair, your back is on the floor, or we've also talked about how to elevate your feet. If you want to elevate your feet on your stair or your stool, that's something else you can try. Okay, so that one should be feeling the back side. We're going to stand up and pair this with an exercise that will ensure that you are feeling your backside. So if you guys have loop bands, we're going to grab onto a lighter set loop band. I'm going to use my yellow, put it around my heels, my ankles. Now if you don't have a band, totally fine. You're going to follow along. No band involved. We're going to stand in a narrow stance on our feet right under our hips. Soft knees. We'll hinge the hips back. So we're in this nice, strong posture position. Shift the weight all onto one leg. And then we're going to extend the leg out to the side, back on a 45, and then straight back. Out on a 45, out to the side. I'm counting every rep as 1. So I'm at about 7 now, 8, 9, 10. We're doing 15, 11, 12, 13. You guys got it. And that's 15. And my ass is on fire on that standing leg. And now we'll switch to the other side. So you can just stay down in that posture, shift your weight over to the other side. And then we'll work with this 3-point extension. I'll show you guys from the front, because we're going side, out, back, 45, and then straight back behind this hip. All the time, we're trying to balance and hold ourselves still with the tension on this glute on this side. So 15 reps of those ones on each leg. And then we are going to take about 30 seconds here to just walk it off, grab ourselves some water, give our butts a memento to just rest here before we go into our second set. You guys are going to complete 3 more of this fun stuff with a butte. So quick sip of H2O. Think about how that felt. Was it hard? Hopefully, if it wasn't hard, then second set here, let's try to make it a little bit harder. When you guys are ready, we'll start next set of our hip thrusts. Because those 3-point extensions, yes, they are definitely working on glutes and your butt is burning by the end of them, but they're not quite giving us the same type of work as these hip thrusts, which is why we're only taking about 30 seconds rest. I'm not having you guys rest any longer than that. Maybe like when you're combining other 2 exercises like our lunges and our hip thrusts. So we'll go a little bit of rest here, and then into our next set. We don't have as much time to go through the superset as if we were doing like lunges with them or something. So we'll go into our next set here. You guys are doing 5 pulses at the top of every rep, trying to keep the ribs and pelvis together. We're looking forward and going through our set. Okay. So again, if you guys are working off of the floor, we're trying to really work that pelvic tilt. So when you come down, you're touching your back to the floor, not the back of your butt. And we can have the weights on our hips. And of course, those of you with bands, if you do not have weights, if you would like to add those bands around your knees, we know what that does. That adds some tension, bringing our knees in. So we have to work the muscles in our hips to keep the knees where we want them in that position of our hip thrust. So you get a little bit more butt work with those bands on if that's something that you want. All right, so you guys are on your second set here. I'm about to go make these construction guys join in on this workout so they stop doing all this crazy stuff out there. All right, so we'll do these 3-point extensions, 15 per side. Again, trying to work with those 3 points of contact. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that I see in this kickback or extension is putting too much weight in this moving leg. If you feel like there's any movement in your upper body, if you're actually moving when you're doing this, you are definitely putting weight in that back leg. Whereas we want to essentially balance and hold our weight over this one leg, which is what is giving us that work in that hip. So you guys have 2 more sets to go through this. So we'll try to really focus on that feeling on these last 2 sets. Okay, so when you guys are ready, we'll go into our 3rd set. Starting back with the hip thrusts. So for those of you who are wanting to add bands, if you do not have a weight, I would highly suggest that you do add bands, especially if you did your first set or 2 without them and you didn't maybe feel like it was the hardest thing in the world. Either bands, dumbbells, whatever you guys are using on this 3rd set, you want to make it feel a little bit more. Then every single time you go through that pulse, we can add a second at the top. So we'll go up and we'll hold for a second. That's 2 pulses. That's 3, 4. So rather than just going up and down super fast through my 5, I'm actually intentionally staying at the top of each rep, of each pulse. And then I go all the way down between, and that is gonna be the most foolproof way for you to make sure that you are feeling your butt on that set there, on that exercise. Just like we add in the pauses at the top, it makes a big difference. Not just the fact that you're holding it at the top, but more the fact that you are thinking about it and you're actually focusing on those muscles doing the work. All right, so we're on our 3rd set. Whoop, whoop. You guys have time with it. We have about 3 minutes to finish up this one and finish up our next one. All right. For the glutes. All right, so same thing. We'll take that second of rest here, that 30 seconds to be specific, and we'll go into our final set of these ones. All right. All right, you guys, nice work. 15. You can take that band off or walk it off. And we'll go into our final round of these ones, which you guys have just under 2 minutes to finish up and get through. Woo-hoo. All right. Awesome. Okay, you guys, nice work. So we'll get going on our 4th set here. The last one that's going to take us to the end of this first superset. Woohoo! So we're going through 5 reps, 5 pulses in each rep. Woohoo! And then our 15 per side thread, 3-point extension. Yeah. All right. So you guys have 1 more minute here to do your thing, to get through as much of this as you can. In theory, you should be definitely finishing your 4th set, unless maybe you were really taking your time with these exercises, in which case just get as much through this as you can. In the next minute. So once you guys are done, we are going to set ourselves up for those step ups. Yes. Okay, So finish up, you guys. It was 30 more seconds. 2 3-point extension is out. Once you are done, we're setting up for these step ups. Now, I'm going to be using this rickety ass IKEA chair for these step ups, which I have tested and felt comfortable with. I've done these. So I'm actually okay doing this. But at any point, if you're doing this, if you're at home, you're using like kind of a sketchy chair, and you don't feel comfortable doing this step up, please just don't. I have a wonderful option. It's called the reverse lunge, which you will do instead of the step up. So for whatever reason, maybe you're doing it on your couch and it's very soft and squishy and you feel a little bit sketchy and unstable doing it, or you just don't want to step on your furniture. Instead of this step up, you are going to do a step back lunge, okay? But I really want you guys to try the step up if you have access to something to step up onto, whether it's even just a stool from your kitchen to your bathroom or an actual like stair or chair that you have in your house. So I'm going to actually take this part off so that I have a harder surface to step up on. There we go. And I'm positioning my chair up against the wall. And that's just a safety precaution for myself. I am going to go body weight. I'm going to be using my arms in front of me for, again, just balance reasons. And then I'm going to step up to the top, switch my feet at the top, and step back down. So we go down, and then I step back up, and then I switch, and I come down. So every rep, we're counting, alternating legs right and left, and we are doing 20 total. So again, if you do not have something, or maybe you just feel a little rickety up there, you can weight up, grab weights down by your sides, and do a step back lunge like so. And if you're feeling good up there, if you're feeling like that's all good, and you're confident, you can add weights up there. Hold them down by your sides and add a weighted step up into this. But a really great way to make this step up harder is to simply use that bottom leg less. So a really nice hack that I have is to pop up onto your toe before you step up. So actually go on the toe and then step up rather than just push up with that back foot. So we'll talk about that. You guys will be back here. Of course, the rainbow times, but we are going to pair this with something, which is our seated squats. So we're going to front load up some weights. If you guys do not have weights, we can go bands around the knees. We're going to hold the weights in the front and set up with our chair behind us. We're going to be sitting down onto that chair and then standing up, trying to keep our chest up, the weights in front of us. And I'm making contact with the chair. But you guys can see I'm not like sitting down and relaxing. I'm staying tight through my lower body. And that chair is allowing me to push my hips back more than in a normal squat. I have to reach my hips back, which is going to help me use the back side a little bit more than the quads. So we're going to 15, 5 of these ones. Trying to inhale on the way down, exhale on the way up. 15 of them. Woo! And then, this is you guys. We are taking no rest in between. Unless you really need to take a quick sip of water, that's okay. But we're going to try to go right into our second, third, and fourth set with just going through these back-to-back. Just that transition time is our rest. So when you guys are feeling ready, we'll go into our next set of step-ups. I was feeling. So the step up versus the reverse lunge, it's kind of the same exercise, but what we're getting in the step up is more range of motion. So we're getting more stretch and tension on our backside or our butt, whereas here, we're only meeting 90 degrees. But if I'm stepping up, I'm in that 90 degrees of tension to start, and I have to step through it. So you're just using those muscles in a little bit more of a challenging way than in that step back lunge, which is why I want you guys to try it. But I also get that not everyone has something to step up on. So we're alternating at 20 per side. Let's get it. Get it, let's get it. Okay. So do you think up there, little sneaky cardio in those step ups, they do get your heart rate up a little bit. But take your time with them, because sometimes if you're going too fast, if you feel like maybe your heart rate's up a little too fast, then maybe you're using too much momentum, using that bottom leg too much. So again, we're going right into our second set of these squats. If you have weights, you can hold them up here. Again, if you don't have weights, or maybe you do have weights, but you just want to add that band as well. Maybe your weights are not the heaviest things in the world. It wasn't so hard. You want to make it a bit harder. You can add that banded tension around your knees once again. And we're going through those 15 reps. So we're making contact. We want you to sit down and touch the bench, but you want to feel like your backside is still tight and we're not relaxed at the bottom. Because if you're sitting down and relaxing, what we're doing is we're going to use these quads, muscles in the front, way more than your glutes in the back of the hips. Whereas if we keep that tight tension, which is what I want from you guys, through those 15 reps. Woo! All right. So, 2 more sets. Whenever you guys are ready, let's do it. Okay. So again, little to no rest. We'll try to go through that third round. All right. Okay. So same rules apply. If you guys are choosing lunges over step-ups, we want to really focus on that front leg pulling ourselves up rather than that back leg pushing ourselves up. So we can think about even lifting up that back leg off the floor at the very back there. And I know it's going to be a lot harder, but it's just going to help you not kind of let your body cheat your way through this, because it will, because it does everything and anything to make things easier, because it's just what our bodies do, which is why I'm constantly reminding you guys on how to avoid that, do the opposite, make things harder, so that you don't waste your time and that you get the most out of these workouts, because we both want that for you. So we have this third set, one more after this one, and then we're moving on, 2 more exercises. It is the lower core time. Yes, we are getting close, but we need our next couple sets to be as strong as possible. So if you're doing a step up, regardless if it's onto a stool, a stair, whatever it is, onto the toe, and then we step up into the top, switching our feet at the top, and then alternating legs. In between these two, something I want to quickly talk about, because we are going to be having these step ups. We're going to be using these over the next few weeks, 4 weeks in our leg days. And so something else that you can do is if you are using, like, let's say like a bathroom stool or like a stair, like let's say you have like a set of stairs in your house and you're on your second or third one, you can do a deficit reverse lunge so that you get a little bit more benefit from the reverse lunge without having to do the full-on step up. And that would be me. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to step up on. But let's say this here chair pad is a stool. If I do this lunge standing on top of something, I'll be able to sink lower because I'll have room to send this back knee down. So again, it's just going to add a little bit more range of motion to that lunge, make it a little bit harder because we've been working on these lunges. We should be getting stronger in them, which means we constantly need to counteract that with making it harder for ourselves. I'm going to need all the strength in the world to not just go out there and rage at these guys for being so loud right outside my window. They know. It's fine. All right, so we're going to go through our 4th set of these ones. The step-ups, the seated squats, the last set, and then we're moving on to the next 2. To the last 2. For our core. All right. So again, little to no rest in between. We'll try to get this done within the next 4 minutes. That's enough time for sure to get through this. That is how much time we have until we should be starting the next part. Yes. Good job, you guys. Okay, so moving on to our final set here. Woo-hoo. Going through 20 alternating step-ups, lunges, and then 15 of those seated squats. We're keeping that tight tension on our hips, regardless of what equipment we're using. The dumbbells, the bands, whatever you got. There it is. So as you guys are finishing up, I know some of us are a little quicker than others. You guys can just grab some water, or walk it up, rest it out. I'm going to give you 2 more minutes here to finish up. Unless we are all done and ready before that, which I think we pretty much are. So the last part here, you guys will not need your chair, your step up, your stool, anything like that. So if it is convenient for you, you can just move it out of the way like it is for me. Saves the space, the little space that I have. Okay. So take your time. You guys have 1 more minute. We are going to move on to the final part here, which is yes. All right. So we'll need our dumbbells. We'll need our bands. Don't put those guys too far away if you are using them. Okay, so hopefully we're feeling good. You guys can grab some water. We're going to move on to the final part here. We have 2 more leg exercises that we are going to go through in a superset. This is another one where we're taking little to no rest in between. We're going to complete 4 sets total. The first one is our deadlift to double calf raise. So we're doing this in a narrow stance or that conventional rather than the sumo or wide stance. Dumbbells are ideal. If you're using bands, we're just going to work with body weight. So I have my feet standing right underneath my hips. I'm going to start by pushing my hips back behind me, and then I'll bend my knees, but I want to keep my shins as upright as possible. So I don't want my knees pushing forward like this. Rather, I want my butt lifted in the air so that my shins stay straight, and that's the bottom. And then we're going to come up onto the toes 2 times, and then we'll go back down, driving our hips back, trying to keep our shins as vertical, as upright as possible. So we're going through 10 total, and this is really hard looking to the side with the balance. There we go, let's try this out. 10 total. If you guys are working with bands, again, we will not be holding like a band underneath our feet. If anything, you can add a band in your hands in front of you here, just to help add some tension to your upper body, to bring your shoulder blades together, because that should be happening with the weights as well. We want that nice posture, shoulders together. You might feel even a little bit of work happening in your upper back because we are doing that deadlift. So we'll go through 10 total. The deadlift plus the 2 lifts equals 1 is doing 10. And then we are going to pair this with side lunges. Yes. Okay. So another one, dumbbells or something weighted to hold in our hands is ideal. For bands, we can do the same style of holding that band in front of us, or again, just work without the band body weight. I'm going to have my feet very wide for this one. Side lunges, we want that slight angle out in our toes. And I'm going to start off with holding my weights in my hands. I mean, 16 pounds here. I'm going to have my palms facing me, shoulders together. And then I'm going to start pushing my hips back as I shift them over to one side. And this is where we might need to adjust. So I kind of have to turn my feet a little bit to make this feel comfortable. And then I'll drive up and forward to the top, and then back and bend over to the side. Every rep is 1. We're alternating. You're doing 20 total. So these weights should stay inside of our knee. If you find that they're kind of in front, you can always turn your hands sideways so that you can keep them in a little bit closer, because we don't want the weights to stray too far away from us, as we'll start to feel too much in our core and our lower back. Rather, we want to keep them close, which sometimes is easier with this position in our hands rather than this one, because the dumbbells might just be too big and get in your way. So we'll go through 20 total. From the side, again, we're pushing back as we bend over to that side. And same idea with the shin. We don't want the knee driving forward. We want the hips driving back so that we keep this focused on our backside, not so much around our knees. especially if you are somebody with sensitive knees. You can play around with how low you're going, your depth. You don't have to sit as low as me if you're not comfortable, if it's painful. You can hang out up here. And on the flip side, if you have more mobility than me, you want to make this a little bit more challenging. You increase the range. If you sit lower in it, it's going to feel harder because you're making it harder. So you're going lower in it. All right, so this is you guys. 3 more sets, and then we are hanging out on the floor, working our abs and core until the very end, which is coming up. But we're gonna get through 3 more rounds of this. Like I said, little to no rest in between. Now, some of us are gonna feel like we need to take some rest after that. If you make those side lunges really hard, feel free to grab a quick sip of water, but just remember that there is no prescribed rest. So you might run at a time to do these 4 sets if you don't essentially hustle to get through them as we go. So we're back to that first one, our deadlift to double calves. As we go through our deadlift, we're shooting up onto the toes. We come down, but we don't want to touch our heels down. And that's why I was kind of struggling there as I turned to the side like this, because it requires some balance up here for us to shoot onto the toes, come down without relaxing our heels, and then push back up. Heels are down on the deadlift, but on those 2 calf raises, we're going to try our best to keep them lifted and balanced and see what happens. See how that feels. It's going to feel a lot harder. Okay, 10 reps. Okay, so we'll do our second set here. Get that guy started if you have not already. Deadlifts to double calves. 10 total, followed by 20 of those side lunges. Woohoo. Okay. All right. So side lunges, you guys are going into your second set. Again, please play around with your positioning. We talked quite a bit about this last week. If you guys were here, these side lunges, how to make them comfortable, because that is a really important. Good job, guys. So we're going through our 20 of these side lunges. So bands or dumbbells, we do want an active upper body, bringing our shoulder blades together, which is going to help us with that posture. That being said, we don't want to have our chest stay so upright like this. We want to push the hips back, and you'll find you might bend over slightly. Shoulders are still together. We don't want to be rounding through our back like this, but if you stay up too much, you might drive your knee forward rather than drive the hips back, which is why I really do try to emphasize you sticking your ass out on these ones, because it makes a big difference, and it's probably the easiest way to do these exercises properly is to think about that, the driving of the hips back. So we'll take that into our last 2 sets of these last 2 exercises, and how we move for time. Oh, so good. So you guys have lots of time. We have about 5 minutes to finish up 2 more sets, even 6 minutes if you need it, of these 2 exercises. The deadlifts to double calves, which I really want you guys to take your time with on this 3rd set. Try to lock in, you not touching your heels down between those 2 reps. And again, driving your hips back behind you. Yep. All right, so 3rd set. Let's do it. Okay, doing our thing on these deadlifts. So we want to drive the hips back, and remember to also bend your knees. Oftentimes, it's very easy to confuse this deadlift with the bend of the knees and that straight leg deadlift that we do, which is more back of the legs. So in this one, we do want that bend in the knees, which comes in after you push your hips back. So just like the sumo deadlift we do, we push the hips back, and then as soon as the weights are kind of right above our knees, we start to bend the knees a little bit, which just allows us to sink a little bit lower into this position, and then you can drive up and out of it. So you don't want to have the legs stay straight. Different exercise, similar, but different focus. We want the bends in this one. So we try to take this into our third and fourth set, because that is the only chances that you guys have left today for these ones. We are done. Okay. All right. So we're working these side lunges, these deadlifts to calves. Same rules of the posture apply on the side lunges. You want the shoulder blades driven together. Trying to inhale on the way down, exhaling on the way up, and that goes for both of these. The way up is the hardest part on these ones. Okay, so please take your time, you guys. Most likely we have one more round with these two. I'm going to give you 1 more minute to finish up, because I just looked at the time, and that is all the time we have before we need to start the next part here, or at least finish this part. Okay, so as you guys come to an end on that one, we are going to move down to the floor to stay. So finish up your final set there. When you are done that one, you guys can come and hang out down on the floor with me. We do not need any equipment, just your body and a mat, a comfortable mat. Doesn't even have to be comfortable. Mine's not that comfortable and it works. But we are going to be hanging out down here until the end. I have my official piece of paper with our 4 exercises that we are going to be doing on them. We struggle to waddle over here. Okay, you guys, we're going to finish off with our core work. Today is all about counting reps, unfortunately, / fortunately, I don't know. We're not going to be on a timer. We're going to have a time cap of 15 minutes, which is technically already started because it is 8:45. So we're going to have the last 15 minutes of the class to go through as many rounds of these 4 core focused exercises as we can. So the first one, we're going to go through them together right now. That's going to be considered our first set. So let's get it started. We're going to lay on our back here. First one's a version of our dead bug. So this one is going to be our pressure dead bug. We're going to take our right palm and our left top of our knee and squeeze them together, which is going to squeeze our back down. Arm and leg is up, and we're going to lower the opposites for 10 reps per side. So you guys can start right now, inhaling right here, and then exhaling as you extend and really try to push your back down and create that pressure here and in your lower back. So we're doing 10%. Now, same thing as in the warm-up. If you can't keep your back down, you can do this with a bent leg instead of a straight leg. Breathing rules still apply. We still want that tension in here in our lower back. And we're doing 10 on this side. And then you guys will switch and we'll do 10, doing the same thing as you did on the first side over here. So if you started with a straight leg, maybe you went to a bent leg, whatever it is, we're trying to keep it as tight as possible in our lower back, because if there is any space between your lower back and the floor, there's space under here, you are not going to get much of anything out of this except a serious risk of injury to your lower back. So you really want to push that down, consider that the most important, and then everything else can come along with it. 10 and 10. Okay, whew. So once we're done that one, we're going to flip over into our all 4 position. We're going to plant our feet or toes into the floor like this so that we can lift right off of our knees. And then I'm going to lift right arm and left leg, and then left arm and right leg. That's 2, 3, 4, 5. We're doing 20. The slower you go, the more you hold them up, the harder. And you can see my body wants to shift and tilt. That is where the control comes in. That's where you're going to get the core work, is by not allowing your hips to shift and tilt, which is easier said than done. So let's do this. 20 total, 10 per side. We are alternating. So we want right side, left side. Now, if you can't control your hips, start with just the arms. And then eventually we'll add in the legs. And then eventually you can work your way to doing an off-knee bird dog like this. So if you want to crank it up a notch, try something a little crazy, that is one that you can do. And I know some of you want to do it, so do it. Okay, so 20 total. Woo! That one is definitely harder than it looks. Maybe not as hard as our breakdancers. I don't know. Okay, so we have 2 more to go through. The next one's going to be in this V position. So we'll get up here and we're going to walk our hips back. So I'm sitting right on the bottom of my butt, like so, which gives us a better chance at sitting upright in this position without just rolling back. So we're going to be here, hands are behind us. I'm going to try to keep my legs lifted in the air, and I'm going to cross and then touch my foot. That's 1, cross, and then touch. That's 2. That's 3. Now, if this is too hard, I can have my feet grazed on the floor, my ankles, my heels, and I can do this with this 1 foot on the floor for a little bit of support. But the goal eventually is to do this up here, if not with straight legs, like so. Okay, so we're doing 10 and 10. Now, yes, this is a very core ab focused exercise, but there's also a lot of hip flexor work in this. So at any point, if these guys are taking over, if it's too much, just raise your heels on the floor and try this like that, as it's going to allow you to kind of not overwork them. So we're doing 10 and 10. The knee and the toe equals 1. I should have mentioned that right away. That's 2. Okay. Maybe that just cranked it up a notch for you guys. Maybe not. Final one is going to be our bridge walks. So we're laying on our back here in this normal bridge position with feet are about hip width apart, squishing the back into the floor, driving my hips up into the strongest bridge that I can. We'll lift up my arms, and then we'll lift up 1 leg at a time. That's 1. Then I'll stabilize this glute, squeeze my butt. Other side, that's 2. And we're doing 20 total. So same idea as in that off-knee shoulder tap. We want to control what's happening with our hips. We don't want them shifting or tilting or lowering at all. We want to keep them lifted and high. If you can't do that, a really easy way to make this easier is to put your hands on the floor, because it gives you a little leverage on each side. It makes it a lot easier to control your hips. So we'll try with our arms up. If we can't get that control, we can put our arms down, and we're going through 20 reps total of this one. So yes, you're going to feel your abs and your core, but more than that, you'll probably feel your butt, your glutes, mostly because of all of the stuff that we just did to work them. And of course, this works them too. All right, so that was a whole circuit there. That was 1 whole round. You guys are going to go through as many more rounds as that as you can in the next 10 minutes. So in theory, it's about 3 sets total, but you might be able to sneak in 4 if you don't take too much rest in between these exercises. So when you're ready, we'll go right into our second set. Back to that first one, that pressure dead bug, where we're on our back, arms and legs are up, extended. We have the palm, the top of the knee, driving together. And we're trying to create that tension, that pressure, not only in our hand and our leg, but more importantly in our lower back and the floor. So we'll go through our second set, 10 and 10. So we're going 10 reps on each side. Again, maybe you need to keep your leg bent like me. If I straighten out my leg in this one, my back kind of wants to pop off the floor a little bit. So I'd rather do this with a bent leg and just focus on squeezing this more over having a straight leg and having that potential of my back coming off. It's not so good. You want to stop that from happening. These ones. All right, so that one, the dead bug. And then we're going to flip over the off knee, arm and leg lifts. So So hands and knees, shoulders over the wrists, hips over the knees. Pop off the knees. And try to lift arm and leg. Controlling, maybe holding for a second, or maybe adding in that extension if you want to try something crazy. It is manageable, and we do quite a bit of stuff to kind of gear you up for this, from the break dancers to the bird dogs to the bear crawls, yeah, optional. Okay, so we'll go through our second set here. Once you guys are done, 20 alternating arm and leg lifts. We are in that V cross foot touch. Very technical term, I know. Like all my exercise names, they're very literal. So we're gonna get ourselves into this V position, this one up here. Arms behind us, we cross, and then we touch the foot. Now, you definitely do not have to make full contact with your elbow and your knee and your hand on your foot, but that is the goal eventually. So maybe that's not gonna happen right away, but you'll think about going in that direction and eventually being able to bring those two together. 10 and 10. I guess it's kind of a sneaky 20 if you want to be real about it. So again, at any point, we can graze the heels on the floor and go through this with that there. Yes. And if we even need to make this a little bit easier, I have options for you guys. You know what's up. So if any of you, again, are feeling like way too much hip, or maybe you're starting to feel like your lower back is kind of creeping up on you, and it's not the good kind of creeping up, like it's starting to feel a little sketchy, a little bit bad, what we can do is also support our upper body with our hands. So if I was doing this with someone and we did all the options to make it easier and it was still too challenging, I'd have them put one hand down, and then you can just work with that support on this side from that upper body there. And it's just going to allow you to do this without getting into that kind of sketchy lower back pain and tension, because we don't want to be feeling that. We can feel a little bit of that achy creeping up on us pain, but as soon as it starts to get sharp or kind of acute and quick, we want to stop and do something that does not make that happen. And it usually tends to happen when we do this really focused ab and core work, which is also why I kind of break it up a little bit with this not so focused core work, aka your bridge walks, aka the last one. So once you guys are done the 10 and the 10, we're going into the bridge, the arms up, and then trying to walk those hips right and left. Now, if you're kind of stuck in between having your arms down, arms up, if you put your arms up and it's impossible, you put your arms down, it feels kind of easy. What you can do is put your arms back up, and we can narrow out our feet, bring them closer together, as that makes this feel a lot easier to keep our hips stable. On the flip side, if you want to make this harder, you have your arms up and it's still not the hardest thing, you can widen up your feet, as now you're going to have to use so much more of your core and whole body throughout your torso and glute and everything to keep your hip from falling in like this. So wider feet equals harder, narrow feet equals easier in this one, into bridge walks. All right, so we have one more set of these ones and take us to the end. I cannot read that clock because I need another bit on my prescription. There we go. We have lots of time. You guys have 4 minutes left to go through our final set, which in theory is just enough time. So once we're done those bridge walks, we'll try our best to go right into our second set, or sorry, our third set, our last set of the dead bugs. The pony always gets in the way. Laying on our back, that's okay. All right, so you guys are starting on to your final set. I'll try to get the third one in, going through 10 and 10, nice and slow, controlled, thinking about being very conscious with your breath. Use that exhale. On the hardest part of every rep, exhale through it. Not only are you breathing out, but you're also getting a stronger contraction through your core as you go down through that hardest part of the exercise. So let's try to get that going on here on this final set of the dead bugs. All right, so we'll do both sides, 10 and 10. We'll flip you guys over to our off knee lifts. Take your time with those though. All right, so last set of these off knee, opposite arm and leg lifts. Planting those toes into the floor. Try to pull our belly button into our spine a little bit so we avoid that arching in our back. Pop off the knees. You guys can try to work with opposite arm and leg lifts. Now with these lifts, the opposite is the case in terms of width and level of challenge. If you narrow out your feet and arms, it's going to be so much harder. Whereas if you widen up your feet and arms, it's going to feel a lot easier, a lot more stable, bigger base of support. This is your last set. So let's try to go out with a bang here, finish it stronger than we started, going through these 20 reps, alternating. Remembering that we only have to do 2 more exercises, and then we are done. All right, potentially the hardest one. I think this one might be the hardest one. I don't know. You guys always have your own opinion. Let's go through this one. We have these last 2 exercises. We're working with our cross to touch, 10 per side. We'll work with all one side, and then I'll switch, and I'll do all the other side. And I want to separate, so I'm touching with the elbow, I come back, and then I go for the foot, and I come back. I don't want to just go elbow, foot, and then return, as again, that's your body's sneaky way of maybe cheating through this one, because that's just what happens. So slow it down, try to think about it, break it down a little bit. It's the last time you have to do this one today, this week, yay. And we're going to finish off with our final set of those bridge walks, which maybe are a little bit easier than this one. I like to think so. Maybe. All right, so breathe, you guys, because that is how you're going to get through this, is just controlling your breath, using it when you're reaching for that foot, when you're reaching your elbow in. Exhale with it. Trust it will help. So final one, whoop, whoop, is on our back, going through those bridge walks. So we'll make that contact, lower back into the floor, driving those hips all the way up. Trying to do this with lifted arms, and then we'll shift the weight. Before you lift up the leg, we'll try to tighten up the hip on that opposite side, and then we'll lift up the leg. So we have 20 reps total that are going to take us to the finish lines. Take your time with them, you guys. Whoop, whoop. Right side, left side, 10 per side, alternating. Let's do it. All right. Take your time. Final exercise, final set. The bridge walks. Nice work, you guys. Oh, we are so close. So as you guys are finishing up this one, pretty much are there. I'm gonna leave you guys with 2 stretches that I want you to work through. First one is for your hip flexors. You probably saw this coming, because this is one that we do very often to counteract all of the work that we do in our hip flexors, but also all of the sitting that we do in real life. So once you're done those bridge walks, first of all, good job. Thank you so much for finishing up strong on those ones. I know some of them were definitely harder than others, but you did it and you're done, and we're going to stretch now the next couple minutes. So we'll get ourselves into this half kneeling position. I am holding on this hand over here so I don't have to balance, and I have tilted my pelvis under, so I'm feeling a nice big stretch on that kneeling side hip. I've also doubled up my mat, because y'all know my kneecaps do not agree when I just use one layer of the mat. So I doubled, tripled it up to make it more comfortable for myself. So we'll hang out here for another 20 seconds, making it about a minute on each side, which is really where we start to get the benefit from these longer static holding stretches. So if you want to come back here and do another set, that will help. You can even hold it for a little bit longer if you have time. If you're prone to tight hips, sore lower back, tight lower back, this will help. And it helps if you do it more often, and now is the perfect time to do it. We'll switch sides and we'll get going on the other side, holding it for a minute. I like to do at least one set with you guys because I know how easy it can be when I say we're done. We're all done and you guys just walk off and go about with your day. But at least doing this one set together will ensure that you get it in and might promote you to feel like maybe you want to complete another set on your own of these stretches. But it's important that we're feeling it in the hip and holding it for this minute. So we'll spend about 10 more seconds right here. And then I'm going to leave you guys with one more stretch, which is for your glutes, which I have options for because I know that some of us just simply prefer one of these more than the other. So we'll come out of this one slowly. Last one's going to be for your glutes. So we have options. Option number one is this one. Now this one doesn't work the best for those of you who have sensitive knees, as this bent knee position isn't the greatest for someone with sensitive knees. In which case, if that's you, you might want to be on your back, pulling in this leg here, or even better, you might want to put your foot up against a wall, yip, 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 like this. I don't know if you guys can see me, but like so, and then you'll hold this stretch here. So we are going to, that's a little sweaty, we are going to hold this for a minute per side. Again, you just choose one of these. You can do this one, or you can do the one on the front side as we're trying to stretch the same muscles, the glutes, the hamstrings, back of the legs. And we'll hold that for 1 minute per side. And this one is definitely, you're not going to have a hard time holding. This is good, especially after all of that crazy stuff that we did to work our glutes and our hips. We're going to help stretch them out, loosen it up. Yeah. Once we are done this one, which we're going to switch and do the other side, of course, but not yet. Keep holding it. I'm going to show you guys one more, which is the bow and arrow. If it's something that you want to do, now's a great time to do it. But we're going to sign off because we're a little bit over time. All right, so we'll switch sides on that glute. You can switch and do the other side. As you guys are switching, I want you to just kind of watch me over here for an optional third stretch if you want to do this one, which would be our bow and arrow for the static stretching version of it. Can't talk. We're done. No, I'm just kidding. So this last one, you can weave your leg under and go through this rotation that we kind of did in the warm-up when we pull their legs side to side. But now, because we've loosened everything up, we've worked, we can hold this here. What this is going to help you guys improve is your mobility through your back, your lower back, your mid back. You'll get a nice stretch on your chest, and we'll also get the glutes and the hips. So it's a really full body stretch. If you do have a couple more minutes right now, I would suggest to do this and hold it for 1 minute on each side. And if you have another like 5 or 10 minutes, then you can go through one more entire set of the hips, the glutes, and the lower back. But you guys are done with me. Yay! Yay, yay, yay! Thank you guys so much for coming out live. I feel like we had such a nice turnout. Bobby, Carly, Tanis, and I saw Sean in the background there. Yay, yay, yay! You guys are so awesome. Thank you for coming out live. I'll see you tomorrow if you guys are here. And I hope you guys all have a great day. You're going to feel so good because your workout is done. Bye, you guys. See you later. Woo!